Good morning, Rabotai. Welcome to Breakfast in the Class. Breakfast in the Class today is in loving memory of Myron Mike Rishti Alav Shalom Lilu Nishmat Meir Ben Rachel, sponsored by his daughter Robin Rishti Beta. And as well, the week of Breakfast in the Class has been dedicated for the health and happiness of their family and for the shidduchim of their children, sponsored by Drs. Habib and Randa Manos. Breakfast in the Class is dedicated in honor of Ted Feldscher, Tovia Bat David, in celebration of their first wedding anniversary on the 29th of Av. May Hashem bless you with a strong health, Parnasah, Mazal, Nahat Shalom Bayit, and the strength to continue your incredible impact on the Jewish community as a Hatzalah EMT. May we soon merit building a Bayit Ne'eman B'Yisrael with healthy and happy children. Bezat Hashem, sponsored with love by his wife, Caroline Felcher, Karabat Leah. Happy anniversary. What a magnificent gift. Week of Breakfast in the Class dedicated in loving memory of Amy Haber Alea Shalom Lilu Shmat Kito Bracha Bat Alta Leah, an amazing mother, wife, daughter, and friend during the week of her Askara. We love you and miss you, Jimmy and Nathan Haber. As well, Breakfast in the Class is dedicated in loving memory of Mrs. Lily Safra Leah Bat Dov HaKohen Ve'echana, in honor of her incredible philanthropy which is spread throughout the world. Breakfast in the Class is also sponsored for the speedy and the complete Refuah Shalma Yaakov Ben Sarah, dedicated by his children, Elna Faralo, and in loving memory of Nishmat Emil Ben Rachel, Alav Shalom, sponsored by Joe Stambuli. Breakfast in the Class dedicated in loving memory of Gabriel Amos, his brother Rabbi Pinchas Amos, Alav Hashalom Nishmat Rabbi Pinchas Ben Rabbi Shimon Ben Masuda, sponsored by Annette and Gabriel Amos. And in loving memory of Malka Siman Tov Nishmat Malka Badina Ben Mashiach, Alav Hashalom, sponsored by the Siman Tov family. Loving memory of Edmund Ashkenazi, Alav Hashalom Nishmat Ezra Ben Margalit, sponsored anonymously. And finally, the week of Cold Brew was sponsored by David E. Ash in honor of you and your substantial capacity to do good today and every day. Today's broadcast is coming to you from Panama, where we find ourselves here for the wedding of our very, very dear friends, the son of the firstborn, the Bechor of my dear friend Didier and Alicia Hafez. Mabruk to their child, to their son Nisim and Yvette Adis, and as well to Joe and Rita Adis on this incredible occasion, the occasion of the marriage of their children. Bezat Hashem, they should be zochet to build a Bayit Ne'eman B'Yisrael. Our parasha begins by telling us about the wonderful berachot and kilalot that lie in front of every single Jewish person. They have the opportunity to choose between a life of goodness and all sorts of difficulty. But it tells us that when we finally get that good and we arrive in Eretz Yisrael, we arrive in the Promised Land, it tells us to be very careful. I want you to make sure, because I'm nervous, says God, that you'll stray after other gods. You'll do Avodah Zarah, etc., etc. Therefore, Hashem commands us, and look, it's pasuk after pasuk after pasuk. Take all the places of idol worship and destroy them. The temples on the high mountains, underneath all the trees, they used to put Avodah Zarah underneath every tree because they thought that that's what would make it grow. And you will destroy their mizbechot, the altars, and you will break their matzevot, all of the pillars and the statues that they put up, and the tree idol worship that they have. They'll burn it. Chop them down. So chop, destroy, break apart, uproot, all these languages that we're hearing about with regards to Avodah Zarah, that you need to destroy the Avodah Zarah wherever you may find it. Now it's interesting to me because the pasuk then continues and says, Lo ta'asun ken l'Hashem Elokechem. Don't do the same to God. Now that sounds a little bit crazy to me. You know, you think the Torah needs to tell you, don't destroy, uproot, burn down, like HaKadosh Baruch Hu's Bet HaMikdash, destroy his Mizbeach. Does it need to tell you, please, Dachilak, when you build a beautiful synagogue, don't uproot it, burn it to the ground, destroy it, spit on it. You have a Sefer Torah, don't erase it. We're talking about Avodah Zarah, of course. Is it required to tell us, Lo ta'asun ken l'Hashem Elokechem, don't do that to Hashem your God? Who would have thought of doing that? There's a very interesting law. We learn the laws by korbanot. If a person wants to bring a korban, and the korban has a blemish, the Gemara brings a pasuk brought down in the Navi. The Navi says, you want to know if you should bring a sacrifice that has that has a blemish on it. So you're not sure if the blemish is appropriate or not. So the Torah gives you a list of blemishes. But then in the Navi adds one line. Hakriveu na lefechatecha. Would you sacrifice this? Would you bring this korban, this present, to the local king, to the governor, to the person who's in charge of your area? Would you do that if you wanted? Hayisaf fanecha. Would he show you favor if you brought him the animal with a broken leg? Here's a present. Here's my defective camel, my defective sheep. What's the guy going to do? He'll chop off your head. What a disgrace that you brought him such a korban. So if even on that, even on not bringing the perfect sacrifice, everybody understands. You wouldn't do that to your local governor. Don't do it to God. So why do we need this commandment? Lo ta'asun ken l'Hashem Elokechem. So Rashi is bothered by this question exactly. And he says, therefore, no, it's not what it means. Le'aktir l'shamayim b'chol makom ki'im ba'makom asher yivchar. No, it means that just you finding all these mizbechot all around Israel, you also should not do a korban on a bama, not in the place of the Beit HaMikdash. Rather, ki'im makom asher yivchar. Once the Beit HaMikdash is built, even though Abraham, Yitzhak, Yaakov, they all do korbanot, Adam HaRishon, they all do korbanot in all different places, around wherever a miracle happened to them. Even Sham Mizbeach Hashem. Once the Beit HaMikdash was settled, the place that God chose, now you can't bring a korban on a bama. That's what Rashi explains. Rashi's second understanding is, Davar acheb litatztem mizbechotam, you destroy their mizbeach, you wipe out their name from under the sky, azhara lemochek et Hashem. It's a azhara, it's telling you you're not allowed to erase the name of God. Interesting, by the way. What happens if you take a tape recorder and you record a shi'ur and a guy says the name of God on the shi'ur? Are you allowed to tape over the tape and record a song or another shi'ur? Is that mechikat Hashem? Who asked this question? Chamuvadia. Chamuvadia discusses it. He says it's not an example. Same question, by the way. You store a document. In the document, you have a pasuk, and the pasuk says the name of Yud Kei Vav Kei. Are you allowed to erase the document? Yes or no? You're allowed to delete it. These things are questions brought down to poskim. So you see, that isur, that discussion comes from here. That you can't wipe out the name of God. Or to take out, or to destroy a stone from the Mizbeach. Amar Rabbi Ishmael asks our question, Rashi says. Do you going to think that a Jew is going to come and start uprooting, breaking the stones of Beit HaMikdash? He says, no. The Pasuk is not telling you not to destroy the Beit HaMikdash. It's not telling you shouldn't do that to God. That everybody knows. What it's saying is, don't do things like Senat Chinam, which are going to cause the Beit HaMikdash to be destroyed. I destroyed the nations of the Eretz Israel before you came because you were supposed to come. But if God forbid you don't deserve Eretz Israel is going to be destroyed, and then what will happen? The Beit HaMikdash will be destroyed. So you will have caused for the Beit HaMikdash to be destroyed, to be burned in fire, just like what you did to Avodah Zarah. It's going to happen to your Beit HaMikdash. So the Isur therefore is on those things. What that means is a concept of Isur Chal al Isur. Generally we say En Isur Chal al Isur. But there's a halacha which states that there's certain times when a person, if they do one avon, they could get two punishments. So as an example, every time you speak Lashon Hara, besides for the sin of Lo Telech Rachil Ba'amecha, besides for the sin of Makeh Re'eu Basater, there's also another Isur. What's the Isur? A Bitul Aseh of Ve'ahavta L'Recha Kamocha. There's a mitzvah, positive commandment in Torah, you have to love your friend like yourself. Do you want anyone speaking badly about you? You don't. What that means is if I speak negatively about you, I've broken the commandment of Ve'ahavta L'Recha Kamocha. So there's many mitzvot that overlap one over the other. So you might do one thing wrong, get to Shamayim, Hashem charges you for 9 things. Could you imagine that? Okay, Rabotai, all of this is all in Rashi, but I wanted to maybe perhaps bring another angle, another concept here to the discussion. Why is it that these things all needed to be destroyed? We've been discussing up until now the destruction of Avodah Zarah in all of its forms, the temples, the statues, the Mizbeach, if there's a Asherah tree, a tree that they would bow down, burn the tree down. I have a question. We know there's elsewhere in Devarim, we talk about this idea that you're going to get to Eretz Israel and you're going to find Batim Mele'im Kol Tub, houses that are filled with all sorts of good things. Machloken and the Rishonim, exactly what that means, what they were allowed, what they were going to find, and what that meant they were allowed to do. One understanding is that they would arrive and they'd find treasures in the houses. Great, a house filled with all good. Another opinion says that if they found something in the house, the Torah was telling you that anything that you find in the house is tub, it's good. And therefore, if you found something which was not kosher in the house, you'd be allowed to eat it. Because the batim mele'im kol tuv. Fascinating concept. Again, not something that's necessarily relevant, but an interesting idea. We don't say about those houses, you have to destroy them. Who knows what kind of averot they did in those houses? Bar minan. Bar minan what they had in those houses. Maybe they even ordered from Uber Eats without checking the kosher section. Who knows? Okay? They did all sorts of crazy things. We're sure in the house. The halakha is not destroy the house. You're allowed to use the house. It doesn't say that in the bedroom where they had arayot, destroy the bedroom. In the living room where they bow down to idols, destroy the living room. It doesn't say it. Kitchen, they cook tarif, destroy the kitchen. It doesn't say it. So why is it that when it comes to the house, we're allowed to use that which they left over, we don't need to destroy it. And when it comes to the Asherah tree, you don't have to destroy it. You have to burn it. Why can't I enjoy this Asherah tree? What's the problem? Now, I want to share. In the laws of Avodah Zarah, there are certain things that create a concept of ne'evad, where a person has to destroy something that was once served, which was once served. Certain things that could have it in ne'evad, certain things that could not have it in ne'evad. I'm not getting into that. I'm asking you here, I'm talking to you here on a hashkafa level, on an outlook level. What the Torah is saying is something that for us, for me and for you, is very hard to understand. For you and for me, we have zero inclination to want to bow down to a statue. You walk in the street, you see a big statue to a general, you see a big statue to about whatever it is. You never felt like, you know what? Ask the driver, do we have time to stop so I can just bow down quickly? I'll be quick, I'll just jump off the bus, I'll bow down, we'll carry on. No one has ever felt the pull of Avodah Zarah. And the reason for that is, our Chachamim explain, is that the Chazal, in the destruction of the temple, they were able to eradicate, before the destruction of the temple actually, they were able to eradicate the Avodah, the Yetzer Hara for Avodah Zarah, the desire. So we don't have that desire, so we don't understand it. But there was once a desire for Avodah Zarah, an unbelievable, overwhelming desire. Now, if that's something which you don't necessarily understand, so maybe a way of looking at it is, think of a sin that someone struggles with that for you means nothing. Like as an example, in my life, I never felt, if only I could eat octopus, squid. I never felt a drive to be able to eat that. For me, that's not something which is appetizing. So there's no Yetzer Hara, so there's no battle whether or not I'm going to eat that kosher. If it's Chalav Yisrael, not Chalav Yisrael, if it's Bishu Yisrael, if it's Faradim, Ashkenazim, you might have something which is in the realm of your nisayon. Even as an example, a person might be walking past a delicious non-kosher restaurant, and you smell the smells, you might feel, wow, that smells so delicious. You're not entertaining even walking in, but there's a Yetzer Hara, smells good, I wish I could have it, as an example. However, octopus, I feel nothing. I remember once I was walking in Hong Kong in the market, and they had all these tarif, seafood, and some guy was driving by with a bloody dog on the back of his motorcycle, on the way to feed his family. I did not feel not even one tiny ounce of drive to eat dog, right? Or to eat, these different types of seafood. I didn't feel it. That's how we have to understand the Avodah Zarah Yetzer Hara was like. Right now, we're not relating to it. But now if you could think of an Averah that you feel no pull towards, think for 1 second of your biggest challenge, your biggest nisayon. Something which is so hard for you every time. It might be Lashon Hara. It might be honesty in business. It might be kosher. It might be, having a jealousy of somebody. That's just how I am. It might be losing your temper. Whatever is the most difficult thing for you to overcome. The Gemara tells us that in the time of the Beit HaMikdash, the drive for Avodah Zarah was like that. So much so that the Gemara tells us that Menashe came to a certain rabbi in a dream who was making fun of him. And he said, if you would have been alive in my time, you would have been lifting the hem of your robe. They used to wear the robes, like long robes. You've been lifting the hem of the robe so that you could run faster to Avodah Zarah. He was saying it from the Olam HaEmet. He wasn't joking. He wasn't exaggerating. He was telling this rabbi, who was a great rabbi, that you also would have fell, in this nisayon. So therefore the Torah tells us, you have to destroy the Avodah Zarah. The drive for Avodah Zarah is too strong, you have to destroy it. And I learned from here a tremendous lesson. There are times, and there are averot, there's difficult situations and challenges that a person, they can trust themselves to live around, that they could trust themselves to live with. I'm not saying you put yourself in a situation of nisayon. Like we say every day, don't bring me to a test. But a person could exist with the test around them and not necessarily fall or fail in that nisayon. But there's certain averot, and everybody knows which averot those are for you, where if you have that thing on the table in front of you, the chances of you succeeding are very low. The chances of you failing are terrible. The Torah says that in a scenario like that, there's no dealing with the nisayon, not dealing with the nisayon, getting chizuk, learning more about it, destroy it, get rid of it. It can't be in the Dalit Amot. They say an unbelievable story with Rabbi Yisrael Salanter. Once Rabbi Yisrael Salanter was in a room with somebody, the man was counting out money. He needed to go get some more money, maybe to complete the transaction, I don't know. As he walks out, he sees Rabbi Yisrael Salanter running out behind him. He said, "What are you doing? Why are you running out? I'm going to be right back." He says, there's a law that says yichuda. A person is not supposed to be secluded with another woman, with a woman that's not his wife, in a room where no one else knows where they are, where no one will see them, etc., etc. Because it's a big challenge. But something might happen, between them. So Rabbi Yisrael Salanter said the same way there's yichud with a woman, for a person to be an unmarried person. I don't know if you know Mike Pence. There was a lot of stuff that went on with him, the vice president. He explained this concept. And he told them, look, this is this is what I do. This is my safeguard. This is my geder, my fence around it. And they all made fun of him. And then during his presidency, look, we saw what came out about all politicians, all these powerful people. And they started to understand that maybe the laws of Yichud are actually brilliant. And they'll save a person, even a good person, from making mistakes. Rabbi Yisrael Salanter says if there's Yichud like this by a woman, there's also Yichud for a pile of money. Maybe I'll take the money, maybe I'll put some in my pocket. I don't know. Now Rabbi Yisrael Salanter is a big tzaddik. And he felt even on that, he needed to not be in the situation at all. The concept of destroying Avodah Zarah was that if I have to live in Eretz Israel, this is where I live. I have a choice to not be in the same place as that thing. I don't have to run around destroying everything. But I have my choice. I don't have to live there. But if this is where I live, so I can't have that thing here. When a person is building the home that they want to build, and they think to themselves, you know what? I'm fine. It's fine. It's going to be okay. I could have, my house could be like this. My family, my children. Unfortunately, not always does that prove to be the case. And those things that they thought they were safe, that they had in their house, again, I want to be clear. I'm not telling you what it is that you shouldn't allow into the house. I'm not telling you that. I'm not telling you what it is in your life which nisayon actually counts for this for you. Only you will know that. But there are things that a person cannot coexist with. Did you hear that? There are things that a person cannot coexist with. He can't have them in his life. I'll give you an example. Let's say you know a diabetic. This guy has a sweet tooth. All the halabiyah, when they grew up with baklawa. First it's like 9 million grams of sugar, and then they pour honey on top of the sugar, and then on top of the honey they have another kind of honey, 2 kinds of honey. And then they make sure that if the honey kind of dried off for 1 second, you see at the weddings now, they have a bag, dripping honey, moving like this back and forth, back and forth, on top of the baklawa, on top of the kanafeh, that there shouldn't be 1 inch of it that isn't soaked fresh with new honey. You grow up like that, but a person has high blood sugar. They have chas v'shalom, they can be diabetic. For a person like that, candies, sweets, these Syrian pastries and delicacies, it's poison. So imagine you have someone in your family, they can't help themselves. Every time they have it. Their numbers are skyrocketing. The person, you could kill him. What do you do if you're the son? You take it away. You don't have it in the house. You have a person who's suffering with some sort of obesity, eating disorder. They're constantly eating, and now they're sick from all the food that they're. You're their father, you're their brother, you're their sister. You make sure that what they have in their refrigerator is only healthy food. Because this person is not making good choices. My friends, the Torah is asking us over here, be honest. If you find something that you're not capable of living with, so eliminate it, destroy it, don't have it, in your Dalid Amot, in your 4 square, Amot. They should not be next to you. My friends, maybe perhaps when we understand this idea, this pshat, in the destruction of Avodah Zarah, we understand what the pasuk is telling you. Lo ta'asun ken la'Hashem Elokechem. Don't do this to Hashem your God. What are we referring to? There's times, as an example, when a person knows in the process of becoming more religious, of strengthening oneself, becoming a Ba'al Teshuvah, and I have a secret for you, all of us are Ba'al Teshuvah. Every one of us is growing. None of us is done. And you know how I know you're not done? Because if you were done, you'd be dead. There must be, if you were given another day, it must be you have another dargah. You have another rung on the ladder that you're supposed to be climbing. So what happens when a person recognizes there's something above their level? And there are times, I must share this with you, there are times when a person in Yahadut, they think they're becoming more strict, but actually that strictness that they're employing in their life is actually ruining their religion. You have a person, as an example, new, fresh Ba'al Teshuvah, he wants to keep the highest level of kosher. Like, not just levels, not just halakha, strict chumrah on top of strict chumrah on top of strict chumrah. Now, the area he lives in, there's not one restaurant that has that high level of kashrut. So what happens? Day 1, he feels like a hero. Day 2, amazing. 3 weeks in, what does the guy feel like? He resents kashrut. He resents religion. You have this many, many times. A person is trying to go from 0 to hero. Yesterday, the guy didn't know how to read. Today, he learned about tefillah. He thinks, wow, I have to be a minyan 3 times a day. You do have to be minyan 3 times a day. But you don't have to go from 0 reading of tefillah to minyan in shul 3 times a day. There's a process. And the only way to do it in a healthy way is to do it slowly. So could you imagine a person has a religious thing which is harming him? So you'd think, says the pasuk, that the same thing would apply. That actually, you know what? Destroy it. Take it out of my field of vision. Don't have it here. It's causing me damage. Says the pasuk, no. Lo ta'asun Hashem Elokechem. When it comes to God, don't move that or remove that from your life. The opposite. Keep it there as a reminder of where you're heading. It doesn't have to be that you're doing it now, but it has to be that you're looking ahead towards a time when you're actually going to do it. The halakha tells us that a person, if they don't understand Hebrew, they should pray in English. So someone wants to ask me, Rabbi, would you recommend that I get a Hebrew-English Siddur? Or should I get a Siddur that's all written in English? I don't read Hebrew anyway. I told him, get a Hebrew-English Siddur. He said, why? It's double as thick, and I never read any of those pages. I said, the only thing you're using is English Siddur today, then tomorrow, the next day, and next year, you're only going to be using an English Siddur. Because there is no other side of the page, only English. However, if every day there's a Hebrew side and an English side, and you're reading here, and you notice this is here, then that level is calling to you. It's there, it's waiting. It makes you realize that maybe, you know what, I really should start learning some Hebrew classes. I really should start getting involved. I really should start maybe, listening, asking the rabbi to make a recording. It's one of the things actually that I did. I made recordings of Birkat HaMazon, of the Amidah, of Shema, and when people don't know how, of Asher Yatzar, of Borei Nefashot, when people don't know how to make the Berakah and they want to start learning, I'll send them a recording on WhatsApp. Anyone can reach out to me, and I'll send it to you. And they listen to it again and again, and next thing you know how to pray in Hebrew. If a person is setting their sights high, then there's a place to grow. But if you remove it from your field of vision, like you were doing for those other nisyonot, you know that this is really pushing you too far in Judaism. But you know what? Keep it there. Keep the Birkat HaMazon on the table, even if people are not doing Birkat HaMazon. Keep the, have the korbanot in the synagogue, even if most people are not arriving at korbanot. You know why? Because eventually, they'll see that there's people there, and then eventually, maybe they'll join for that as well. Hashem should bless us to always be rising one level after the next, in ma'alot, in all of the advantages of Judaism, of Torah, and of mitzvot. Baruch Adonai le'olam. Amen.